Hello. This may be a little late, but I'm a slow person. I'm here to do statistics. My favorite video to watch at the end of the year is Books and Lala's year in review, or statistics. I thought I would basically copy that, but in my own way, I guess. I'll link her video of this year's year in review, this year, 2019, in the description if you'd like to see that. Let's start. In 2019, I read 73 books, which is super cool because, one, my Goodreads goal was 50 and I passed that by 23, and last year I read 21 books. However, I could have read 75 if I had finished these two books that I have DNF'd. So first I started To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I read around 90 pages and I couldn't continue. I was bored, so I wasn't going to force myself. So I didn't read this, but I did read 90 pages, so I'm counting it to my total page read count. And then I read 64 pages of this Swedish book that is absolutely horrible. I hate it with my soul. I don't like this. All the 73 books plus those two books that I read, those little pages, it totals to 29,361 pages, which is not bad. Which means that I read on average 80 pages a day. It's actually 80.4, but I'm rounding it down. Now I'm gonna show you what I read each month. So as you see, I clearly read the most in August and the least in June. If you average it out, I read 6 books a month, which is pretty good, I guess. Now let's go ahead and talk about star rating. I read 0 1-star books. That either means that I am horrible at rating books, or there was no book that I absolutely hated, which is true. So I don't know. I read 10 2-stars, 11 3-stars, 25 4-stars, and 27 5-stars. So clearly I liked the majority of the books I read. Also, all of the ratings that are 2.5 or 3.5, I rounded down. If I average it out, it gives me a 4-star, which is good. Now in terms of genre, I read mostly fantasy. I read 43 fantasy books, 12 romantic books, 5 contemporary books, 7 mystery books, 2 thrillers, 2 historical fictions, and 2 comics. Yeah, it's fantasy, clearly my favorite, and then it's contemporary / romance. Now I thought it would be fun to talk about the size of the books I read. I read 6 books that went up to 0 to 100 and something, not reaching 200. Kind of, you get it. 9 books that were 200 plus pages, 26 that were 300 pages, 15 that were 400 pages, 9 that were 500 pages, 5 that were 600 pages, 1 700-page book, and 2 books that were 800 pages. My shortest book that I read was Work is Hell by Matt Groening, and the longest book I read was Inheritance, the 4th book in the Inheritance cycle by Christopher Paolini. This came really close to being The Priory of the Orange Tree. They have like 5 pages in between, so. And on average, clearly was 300 to 400 pages, but I calculated it with all the right pages and it gives exactly 400. Now let's talk about the authors. 13 of the books I read were from authors I had previously read from, and the remaining 60 were new authors. It is pretty obvious that I didn't read a lot of books before. In terms of their gender, I read mostly from women. 45 books were written by women, 20 were by men, and the remaining 8 were by a multiple multiple authors that are male and female. I put there one that is not right. It's 3 men, but I'm leaving it. Now let's talk about release date. I never read books from the year they are published because I'm way behind on all the cool books that everyone's read. So it's obvious that I read less books that are from the year. So I read 8 books that were from 2019, which is pretty cool because I don't think I read a book before from the same year. I don't know. And then the rest, 65, were from previous years. In terms of whether the books were part of a series or standalone, I mostly read series. I read 49 books that were part of a series, and the remaining 24 were standalones. Now, I thought it would be pretty to show you the colors that I read. The 2 colors that I read the most from were blue in first place and green, which I think is pretty normal because most fantasy-ish books are blue, I think, or black. Also, you can see on the picture I have some, they're in rainbow order, except the few books that are rainbow, like they have many colors, that there isn't one predominant color, and they are in the middle of pink because I thought it looked good there. In terms of readathons, I participated in 7 of them. I participated in The Reading Rush, The Owls, The Newts, Spookathon, Witchathon, Buzzword Readathon, and the Winter Magical Readathon. And from all those readathons, I read 31 books for those. So half of the books I read were for readathons. Readathons are helping me reach my reading goals. Finally, I don't really have anything else of interest. The sun is slowly approaching. So I have some trivia. Not really trivia, just interesting facts. The most popular book on Goodreads that I read, so the book that has the most ratings that I read, is Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. 2.5 million people have rated this on Goodreads. That's a lot. And the least popular or the least rated book on Goodreads that I read is The Smurfette by Peyo. This book has only been read by 458 people, including me now. In terms of rating, the highest rated book on Goodreads that I read is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. It has an average rating of 4.68, which is really high. And the lowest rated book that I read is Because You Love to Hate Me by a variety of authors, but edited by Amory. And this has an average of 3.51 stars. The only book that I reread this year was Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. It's one of my favorite books, and I read it for a readathon. And lastly, if you watched my video of the last few books that I wanted to read in 2019, I read almost all of them, except one. I did not read Scythe in 2019. I'm gonna read it this year. So that's the only thing I didn't do. And that is everything. The sun is slowly devouring my room, so I think I should go. Those are all my stats. I hope you find them as interesting as I do. I really love to organize books. Yeah, that is everything for this video. I don't really have anything else. So I'm gonna go. I'll see you in my next weird video. Bye!